Welcome in to the Rock Talk Studio, the podcast that gives you recommendations on new rock and roll books and documentaries you don't want to miss. So if you're looking for the next great rock and roll book or doc to check out, here comes the good stuff. Like today's book, a manuscript that was lost for 60 years from a lyricist that wrote some of the greatest American music of all time. I'm your host, Big Rick. Join me for an exclusive look into what's hitting the shelves and the screens, and get ready to rock your reading and viewing list. And today, the spotlight falls on the silver snarling trumpet, the lost manuscript of Robert Hunter. And this is the beginning of the Grateful Dead story. It was found in, of all places, a large trunk in a storage unit, a manuscript that was written in San Francisco in 1961 by, at that time, a 19-year-old Robert Hunter, the famed lyricist of the Grateful Dead. It was 1961, and Hunter and a few select friends gathered in a small room to live when they were struck with a question. What would it take to always live life carefree? Can we live life like this forever? The 60s. It was all about the scene and the one that they were trying to put together. And this one was one that came after the Bohemians and before the hippies. Hunter describes it as this: there are long days and short days, just as there are orange days and gray days. But always in between are the waiting days. Hunter's poetic voice in its early form, it sounds a lot like Kerouac. It is very wordy, run-on sentences floating largely on peace and love vibes. There's a lot of exploration of self in these pages. He was young, remember he was 19, and experimenting and looking for life's purpose. He spent most of his time with just a few friends, one of them being Jerry. Yes, that Jerry Garcia. So with this lost manuscript, found by Robert Hunter's wife a few years after he passed away, you get the beginning of the creative partnership between Robert Hunter and Jerry Garcia, the partnership that led to songs like Dark Star, Ripple, China Cat Sunflower, Truckin', Terrapin Station, St. Stephen, Alligator, and that's just naming a few of them. Robert Hunter wrote the lyrics to an American songbook. This book documents those first days of friendship with Jerry, who was always playing guitar, and Hunter, who was always scribbling in his notebook. Hunter writes, Garcia was nothing if not single-minded about his music and his ideals. It was a time when Hunter's passion for writing was just starting to overtake him, and with Jerry's suggestion, after putting an end to their two-man band, he started taking his writing seriously. This book is a dreamy composition of life in Southern California. There are numerous documentations of dreams, character sketches, and meanderings, which allows Hunter to wordplay and show off his budding talent, which is pretty evident. When I finished the book and I started jotting down a few notes about it, a day or so later I went back to the book, and like most books I finished, I just pick it up and jump back in and wherever my fingers lead me to kind of get the feel of the book again. And with this one, I had to pause and take a moment to really get that this was written by a 19-year-old. I would have never guessed that. If I didn't know who wrote this book and you asked me, okay, how old is the person who wrote this? There's no way I would have guessed 19 years old. No way. It's not often that you get this deep of a glimpse into how something began. It is truly an artifact of the times. The book features a foreword by John Mayer, which he just nailed. It's a real touching and impressive recap of emotion in Hunter's writing. I could have just read what Mayer wrote, and it would have served as a great review of his work. It also has a foreword by Dennis McNally, and he was the Dead's official historian and publicist. He also wrote A Long Strange Trip, the inside history of the Grateful Dead. And there is an afterword by one of the other friends of Hunter and Garcia's featured in the book, Bridget Mayer. What the book lacks in action, again, there is a lot of hanging out and just kicking back and goofing off. One of their favorite things to do was sit in a coffee shop and bookstore and share one cup of coffee between four people just waiting for the next great thing to happen. And what the book lacks, again, in action, it does make up for what this actually is. This is a one-of-a-kind book. There is no other firsthand record of Robert and Jerry's friendship. This is the first blossom. In this early stages of these two hanging out, and in this book, we get to be in the past, not like most books that are our look into the past. This one, you're actually there. We get to actually be there and experience it through the words of Robert Hunter. And we read and watch as history implies ever so slightly that this moment, this movement, this community could and would turn into one of the greatest songwriting partnerships in the history of rock and roll. The Silver Snarling Trumpet, The Birth of the Grateful Dead, the lost manuscript of Robert Hunter is 218 pages. So at this point of the show, I always like to take a look at an outstanding question, something that just begs to be answered after I read the book and something I feel that needs to be addressed. And today, that one big question is, why wasn't this ever published before? After the break, I've got your answer. Who wants a free book? And not just any book. This book is one of my top 5 books of 2024, and I'm giving it away. I just got word from the publisher, Akashic Books, that they are supplying me with a copy of Robyn Hitchcock's beautiful memoir, 1967, How I Got There and Why I Never Left. This is the most unique memoir I think I've ever read. It is a fantastic read. It's episode 40 in the archives if you want to learn more about the book. And this book giveaway is only offered to people who get the monthly blast. What is the monthly blast, you asked? It's a way to keep on top of all the books and docs that are out there. That's probably the easiest way to describe it. Every end of the month, the blast goes out with a list of my current top 5 books and docs of the year, updates on all the newly announced books and docs that are coming out. And as I mentioned, immediate enter into all the book giveaways. Currently, there are 2 books being given away. The aforementioned Robyn Hitchcock memoir, 1967, and the new Rush book, Rush at 50. This is a coffee table style book. Really cool Rush book for Rush fans. So all you need to do is sign up for the monthly blast and just send me an email. It's free. There are no subscriptions needed. Just shoot me an email at info@rocktalkstudio.com. Say Big Rick, send me the blast, and I'll hook you up. I want to shout out quickly to a few members who have signed out for the blast this week and who have entered in to win the books. Tim M., Dave, Mo, Scott S., Sandy M., Art B., Brett B., and Jocelyn W. are just a few names. Thank you for signing up for the blast. Thank you for supporting the Rock Talk Studio, and good luck with winning the books. So why didn't this groundbreaking piece of rock and roll history, Robert Hunter's manuscript, The Silver Snarling Trumpet, ever come out before? In the acknowledgement of the book, Hunter's wife, Maureen Hunter, shares that right after they were married in 1982, Hunter put a bunch of his writings, including this manuscript, into a large trunk into a storage unit. And that was it. It was never mentioned or thought about until he passed and she started going through his stuff. The book, and this is pretty cool, also includes a couple of pages written by Robert Hunter in that same year, 1982, and he talks about why he didn't publish the book. He discusses his writing styles and the changes he made to the original draft. I'm not going to spoil it, but he does address that in 1961, when he wrote The Silver Snarling Trumpet, he had no desire ever to publish it. So we're lucky his wife dug it out of storage and gave us, as Robert Hunter describes it, a representative artifact of the dawn of the 60s. If you've been listening to the show for a while, first of all, thank you. You know that I always like to do shout outs to other rock and roll podcasts and newsletters. And I want to do a shout out to a great newsletter that I just found. It's called the Zappagram. It's put together by Chris Zappa, and Chris does a really great job at creating this source for all the latest in music news. You've got album reviews, there's artist interviews, vinyl reissues, upcoming releases, new music discovery, music history. There's so much in this newsletter. I love getting it every month and checking out. Kind of brings me up to date on all the music stuff. If you're into newsletters, I highly recommend this one, the Zappagram. Check it out. All right, coming up in next week's podcast, it's the bonus episode where I catch you up on all the new books and docs that are coming out. I've got projects featuring REM, Christine McVie, Joni Mitchell, the J. Giles Band, Elton John, the Bangles, and a book from one of Tom Petty's Heartbreakers. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Love talking rock and roll and being able to give you the scoop on a title I think is worth your time and money, like the Silver Snarling Trumpet, The Birth of the Grateful Dead, that Robert Hunter manuscript. Don't forget to sign up to win the free Robyn Hitchcock and Rush books by sending me an email at info@Rock Talk Studio. All right, folks, tear it down, pack it up, and head on down the road. We'll see you next time in the Rock Talk Studio.